Okay, so we are going to be solving a multi-step equation. With the distributive property. Okay, so far we have solved one step and two step. We have solved multi-step with variables on both sides. And we have done other problems with the distributive property. So we're going to jump right in to, I'm going to kind of leave a little space for right now because I want some explanation to do. So example 1, 7 minus 3 times the quantity of 5t. Put your little tails on your t so they don't look like plus signs. Minus 10 equals 67. Now, in some previous videos, I talked about good guys, bad guys, and friends. So I'm going to clarify in this video which ones are the good guys of these, which ones are the bad guys, and which ones are friends. Okay? So I know that the good guys, these are the variables. The good guys are always the variable. The friends are the numbers touching the bad guys, excuse me, the good guys. So that could look like 5x. So the x in this case is always the good guy, and then the 5 would be the friend. Or it could be something like x over 3, because it is touching with this little bar. So this x would be the good guy, and the 3 in this case would be the friend. And then we have the bad guy. The bad guy are the numbers not touching. In other words, they are just numbers, not touching the good guys. Okay, so looking at example 1, I chose this problem because this one is missed often. We have something unique, and that is these right here, and we're going to call those jail. Okay, we have to break them out of jail before we pull anything out of there. We can't just pull the 5t out or pull the negative 10 out. We got to break it out of jail first. The most common error is right here. A lot of people will be doing 7 minus 3 first. This 7 minus 3 is subtraction, and then the negative 3 times this quantity, or the stuff that's in parentheses, is multiplication. And we remember from our orders of operations, PEMDAS, that parentheses, so I'm looking at parentheses. Well, I can't do anything inside the parentheses, so that's not what I'm looking at. But multiplication and division come before adding and subtracting. So I need to focus on my multiplication first. So that means I am going to be multiplying this negative 3. You take that sign with it. So that means the 7 gets brought down. Negative 3 times 5t, it means I have negative 3 times 5t, and that gives me a negative 15t. And then I got to use the rest of the stuff inside the parentheses. Negative 3 times a negative 10 is a positive 30, and that equals 67. One of the things that I do like to do when I am solving equations is I like to draw that line to make sure that what I'm doing to one side of the equation, I am doing to the other. Okay, this is another spot where people have issues. At this point, if I am still unclear as far as what I need to move first, I am solving for the good guy. I'm always solving for the variable. So I'm going to go through and label this. So the 7 is a bad guy. My variable is my good guy. This 15 is touching the variable, so this must be a friend. And the 30 is not touching things, that's a bad guy, and that's a bad guy. So when we were thinking of this, we want to move all of our bad guys away from the friends and the good guys. So I always try to move the bad guys first. So I have 7 bad guys on this side of the fence and a positive 30 bad guys on this side of the fence. I'm going to combine or move together all of my bad guys and get 37 bad guys. Bring down my minus 15t and set that equal to 67. Now, on a little side note, let's go back to this problem. I could have said, hey, I want to get rid of my bad guys in like little clumps. I could have gotten rid of these 7 bad guys first by subtracting 7 on both sides, and then turned around and got rid of my 30 bad guys. Okay, it's not going to matter. What you don't want to do, this is a major no-no, and I see it all the time, is instead of just combining the like terms, I will have students that will subtract 7 from here and 7 from here. That is a major no-no, because what you're actually doing is you are, if we box our work, we are actually subtracting 14 from this side of the equation and doing nothing on this side of the equation. So we are not keeping this equal. So if I am just combining them, it's kind of like I'm taking a pile of 7 something and 30 of something and putting them together. So now I'm going to go ahead and relabel. This is just a number, so it's a bad guy. There's my friend and good guy and another bad guy. So I still have 37 bad guys that I need to boot. So I'm going to subtract, because I'm doing the opposite for the inverse operation. Here we are understood adding. So I need to subtract. Don't forget to bring down the negative 15. T equals 67 minus 37 gives me 30. And now I have to ask myself, how do I get rid of this negative 15? Another common error is people will want to add 15. This is all about the inverse operation. So you need to ask yourself, what is this negative 15 doing to the t, or doing to the good guy? Well, there's no sign there, so it's multiplying. So the inverse of that is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by a negative 15. We need to be able to cancel out the 15s and cancel out the negatives. You're left with t equals a negative 2. And we should go back in by plugging it back in. Example 2. I have 15 minus parentheses 4m minus 5 equals 32. I'm going to draw my fence again. Well, I'm kind of freaking out here because up here I had a negative 3 outside the parentheses, and here I don't have anything. What you have to remember is that this is an understood negative 1. So again, we have subtraction or we have multiplication. We know multiplication comes first. So I am going to just bring down the 15. I'm going to have to distribute the negative 1. Negative 1 times a positive 4m. Negative times a positive gives me a negative 4m. Negative times a negative, another common error right there, is a positive 5 equals 32. So again, I have 15 bad guys on one side and 5 bad guys on the same side. So 15 bad guys and 5 bad guys gives me 20 bad guys. So now I have all my bad guys in a little cluster here. I'm going to subtract all of them. Notice again, if I were to box my work, I'm subtracting 20 over here and 20 on this side, so I am keeping it in balance. Don't forget to bring down that negative 4m and have that equal to 12. What is that negative 4 doing to the m? It's either adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. Well, there's no sign in between, so it must be multiplication. I am going to do the inverse operation by dividing. 4's are gone, negatives are gone. I have m equals a negative 3. And again, we should check it by plugging it back in. I'm going to go back and do example 1 again. And I'm wondering, okay, I can't move any of these guys because they're in jail, but I have bad guys here. So I have bad guys here, and I clearly have bad guys here. I'm guessing that's kind of a friend since it's outside the parentheses, but I don't know really for sure, but I definitely have bad guys. So can I still going to get the same answer if I subtract 7 on both sides? I wonder if that's going to work. So 7 minus 7, those are inverses. I'm going to bring down the negative 3. Okay, now I have multiplication happening here. So if these things are being multiplied, couldn't I undo that by dividing? So if I divided the entire left side by a negative 3 and the entire right side by a negative 3, 3's cancel, negatives cancel. And 60 divided by negative 3 gives me a negative 20. So now we're right back to a two-step equation. And notice I never did have to distribute. Let's see. I'm going to get rid of my, let's see, I have a good guy, friend, bad guy, and a bad guy. I'm going to get rid of my bad guys first. I have 5t equals negative 10. 5 is multiplying times a t, so I need to divide. And t equals negative 2. And I believe that's what I got for my example 1 when I did it before. And I did.